people with real jobs.
Hello?
Self-employed people. Which do you want to be? This is Certifiably Unemployable. It's time to fire the boss and become self-employed. Maybe you need a push to get that business or side gig going that you've been dreaming about for years. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can listen to stories and get experience from people who've done it. Get ready to change your life. Broadcasting from the compound, this is Certifiably Unemployable, and this is Sean Dean.
Welcome to Certifiably Unemployable. I am your host, Sean Dean, and once again, thank you for making us a part of your busy week as an entrepreneur, especially towards the end of a year like 2020. There's a lot going on. You got a lot of time for family, a lot of time for friends, but as we move into the new year, we're excited to bring you more information, and hopefully we can help you become certifiably unemployable. So this week, we have a special guest who's an author, a financial educator, and business consultant developing practical tools for superior money management. Steve Larsen is also a certified public accountant and certified financial planner. He empowers clients to pursue exceptional visions for their future. Through his $100 million wealth management firm, financial planning classes that he studied, and easily digestible online courses, Steve has helped thousands of people pursue what is most important to them. Steve Larsen, welcome to Certifiably Unemployable. And I'm excited because Steve is going to talk to us about how to take a year off in your business. So I'm intrigued. Steve, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. Perfect. So you're on the West Coast. I'm on the left coast. And so we're opposite parts of the country, but because of technology and because of Zoom, which I keep giving them that shameless plug, and I'm still not getting any credit for it. Maybe one.
I know.
But
where's your royalties?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, my people are working on that. But anyway, so we're gonna specifically talk about a year off. First, I want to understand your story, what your background is, where you came from, and here on Certifiably Unemployable, we like to hear the good, the bad, the indifferent, because I want anybody listening right now. Which, of course, if you're listening, anything during this show, if it resonates, just make a comment on the YouTube video, make a comment on the Facebook video, send us an email at certifiablyunemployable@gmail.com. And if you want to reach out to Steve, we can go and get you connected as well. So let's begin. So Steve, tell us about you, where it all started and where you're at today.
Well, yeah, that works great. I don't have a lot of indifferent, but I do have a lot of good and bad. So we can definitely cover that. So I from the Northwest, I'm up here in Washington State. Got my undergraduate degree in information systems, and that was back when I was doing websites by hand and everything. So not a lot of skills that are applicable today, but it was boring. So I was looking for something different, and I decided to get into finance because, again, it seemed sexy. So I thought, hey, I can pick investments. That sounds cool. Mm-hmm. Would find out that's a very small part of the job, but it's still what seemed cool. So I got a job with a large national firm, did that for about a year and a half, and then I struck out and started my own business. So during that process, one of the things I discovered about myself is I don't want to work for anybody else, and I don't make a terribly good employee anyway, so I'm sure the feeling was mutual. Yeah. And it was just counting down the days till I could start my own thing.
That's great. So you've been in the financial space for how long then?
We're about at 20 years now, pretty close.
Okay. And that's 20 years in the space altogether, or 20 years owning your own business?
I've probably had my own business for 16 years. Let's say 18 in the financial sector, and 16 running my own business. Okay.
All right. Perfect. And so your business itself, what do you specialize in? I know you're a certified public accountant, so you're a CPA, but outside of that, what else do you specialize in?
Yeah, so a couple things. I run kind of a traditional financial planning firm, and I use the word financial planning intentionally because we do formal financial plans and charge fees for them. My firm doesn't sell any products for commission, so that's the whole fiduciary thing you always hear about and read about. I follow that very closely. So that's kind of the niche we're in. More specifically, I tend to work with small business owners because I've been one for so long and understand the journey and understand the struggles and the loneliness. So I will in particular work with small business owners, help coach them, help them grow. And then of course there's some tax planning and investment planning that comes along with that inevitably as well.
Okay. Now I know our focus today is not going to be on the financial aspect. I know some parts of our discussion today are going to touch on that, but I do have a quick question. So with that being said, since you do work with small business owners, someone listening right now, maybe they're just getting started. Right away in their mind, they're thinking, well, my business is brand new, or I'm just getting it off the ground, or even somebody who's been in business 5-10 years, right away, they might be thinking, I can't afford to sit down with a financial planner. So with that being said, do you have, is there a set budget for people? Like, is there a plan for virtually anybody, regardless of where they're at in their financial status?
That's a great question. That's been one of the best innovations about the financial planning industry over the last, let's call it even just 5 years, is that there's now a plan for everybody. So some of the more established higher net worth firms will of course have minimums, but now there's people who specifically work with those without money, who are just trying to get their budget together, trying to set up their first 401k, trying to put their first assets together, that'll work hourly, work off a $100 a month retainer. There's all kinds of different business models out there. So we work with new people who without much assets as they come through referral. Otherwise, we have places we can send them. But yeah, if any of your listeners want to contact me afterwards, I won't even sell them on me. I'm happy to connect them with somebody in their area just so they find somebody's willing to help them, because I'm a strong believer in the financial planner and their ability to get people started on the habits that they might not start otherwise.
Okay, yeah, because that was going to be my next question. You being in Washington State, I mean, how would it work if someone like myself in Florida wanted to work with Steve? I mean, is there a way for us to work together, or do you have to connect me with somebody else?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks a lot like this, except without it being recorded. So we get on Zoom, we go through your stuff. All the tools are the tools are online and web-based, so it's pretty easy to go through your stuff, set your goals, track your progress, all that. So yeah, that's something I can definitely do. But still, as the country opens back up, there's still nothing like sitting face to face. So there's good ways to find somebody in your neck of the woods also.
No, I agree 100%. But I do believe that is the positive side to the COVID-19 pandemic. It is forcing people to embrace technology more, and understanding that there are ways for us to communicate, connect. We don't have to use something as the pandemic as an excuse for us not to move forward in life. So with that being said, let's talk about the book you have. You have a book specifically titled The Year Off, which when you hear it, you're like, who could take a year off? I mean, how did that happen? Where did you come up with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a combination of two different things I was seeing in my financial planning practice at the same time, and that my clients needed help with. The first is budgeting wasn't working for anybody. So basically, I've learned over my years in the business that for somebody to be a successful budgeter, it has to be in their DNA. So if budgets work for you, keep doing them. If they don't work, they're really hard to start up. And so I'd have people try budgeting. I'd have people try using envelopes of cash and Dave Ramsey systems. And this is all good stuff. But in my experience, they work for, those two things combined work for less than about a quarter of the people I talk to. So there's just this whole other segment of the population whose brain doesn't click with those systems. And there's not really a system for them. So I had to develop a system to do this. And then the other thing I was struggling on the other side was getting people really more from a behavioral finance perspective, getting people to take saving seriously. And it's, retirement's 40 years away, it's 30 years away. Even if it's 5 years away, people weren't taking saving money very seriously. Yet everybody wanted to do all these things, not just in retirement, but now they wanted to make these changes. They wanted to pursue things that were important to them. So I thought, okay, how do I make this more tangible? And that's when I stumbled across a system working with my clients to make saving about building up the resources to do something radical, to make a change, to do what you always wanted. And so the book is the combination of those two things. It's a combination of a money management strategy I developed over 10 years working with clients, and some motivation for them to implement it. And so it really all came together when I decided to do it for myself.
Okay. So you actually took a year off and you did no work.
I did. I took a year off and I wrote the book. So because the preparation is or the journey is most of the reward you get. So I had to get my business ready to go. I had to get my personal finances ready to go. I had to get my family ready to go. I had to get all these things ready. And then I was able to take a year off. And then I thought, man, how'd I do that? Well, why don't I write a book about how I did that so other people can have the same journey I had?
Wow. So why do you think it's important for people to actually take a complete year off?
Well, I wouldn't even go as far as to say it's important for them to take a year off. I'd say two things. First of all, it's important for them to be prepared to take a year off. Because if 2020 taught us anything, it's that a year off may be forced upon you. You may not have a choice. Yeah. So, and it's not just a global pandemic. It's health issues. It's illness of a loved one. It's a job loss. It's you getting terminated. Your year off may show up. It may show up out of nowhere. And you want to be prepared for that when it does. And the second thing is, if it's not a year off, you also need to be ready for a change. Even if you don't know right now, like, man, I always wanted to, I always wanted to be a missionary in Peru. Like, that's great. But most of us don't know that. Most people don't know exactly what they want to do. So what I want people to do is be prepared when that opportunity does come knocking. So if there is something you think, man, that's it. That's what I want to spend the next year of my life exploring. You don't have to start at the ground floor. You've already got a foundation built.
Okay. All right. The next thing is, I've heard the term rat race, but rut race, what exactly is that?
Well, it started as a clever term I stumbled across while I was writing, probably when I was writing at night after I was drinking or something. And I thought, that's cool. Like, I'll just roll with that. And then I got up the next morning, I started thinking about it and I thought, okay, what did I mean? And it kind of occurred to me, a rat race, if we're looking at rats, somebody put them there. So they're trapped in the cage, they're trapped in the maze, they're an experiment. And that doesn't apply to us because we're not at the whims of anybody else. We're in control of our own fate and our own destiny. So the rut race is when there's grooves laid out in front of you. There's high walls on each side. You just mindlessly follow the path laid out before you without thinking. You're just in the rut, following the rut. And it's just so different from a rat race because I don't think the rat race analogy holds. Nobody's making you do anything. You're just looking ahead and following the well-worn path ahead of you. And so I wanted to make that distinction clear in the book that it's up to you. You're the one making the choice if you feel stuck.
Right. And you just have to just get unstuck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which one of my mentors in business over the years, Robert Hollis, he's very successful in network marketing. He actually specifically talks about getting unstuck. Mm-hmm. So I like that term very much. So what did you feel was, obviously going through this process, taking a year off, you look at the fear, you look at the risks. Did you not worry about that at all?
Well, very much, right? It's always a risk, and depending on your situation, there's going to be different types of risks. So maybe it's monetary risk, maybe it's a career risk, but you also have to lay out the risks and rank them. And the risk of not doing anything different, the risk of not pursuing something that's important to you, you've got to put that up there too, and then weigh that against each other. What's the bigger risk? Is it having to find a new job in 6 months? Or is the biggest risk never pursuing something I wanted to, never taking an opportunity that came across my desk? So me, and I get that everybody's not built like this, but I'm a pretty natural risk taker. I know, seeing the CPA and the clean cut over here, I know that surprises a bit of people, but I'm fairly risky, and I'm not scared if I ever have to start over. It doesn't worry me at all. But most people aren't like that. Most people like the security and like to have things just so. And so I understand that. And that's why I'm kind of trying to split the difference here, which is let's start eliminating some of that risk now by getting your finances in order and getting you some resources in the bank.
Well, I think speaking as a veteran entrepreneur, you have to be a risk taker.
Yeah.
Bottom line. So I think that's very common for many entrepreneurs. However, as you become a veteran entrepreneur, you also start thinking, well, obviously you always want to limit your risks. So you're like, which risks should I take? But we're always going to fail because tomorrow we might try a new idea and it doesn't work. But I think one of the biggest things is especially for the new entrepreneurs, is the fear of not knowing that they can do it. And I think that's the key. And that's where they have the doubt, they have the inexperience, they've got all that stuff running through their brain. So when you write that 3 things stand in our way of taking control of our lives, we got money, fear, doubt, and experience. Can you break those down for us?
Yeah. So absolutely. So there's fear of the unknown, right? And there's fear that you're going to make a wrong decision, and really it's fear that you're going to have regret. So but I like to say there's a couple different types of regret, right? There's the things you regret doing, and there's the things you regret not doing. So the things you regret doing, you can't undo that. You can't go back and unpunch somebody in elementary school, like that's right. Done. There's only, the time you talk trash to whoever, you can't go and do that. It's already done, right? You can make amends or whatever. But then there's the things you regret not doing. And so those are the things that you need to focus on, because that's what's in your control. So you have a long list of things you would regret if you didn't do. That's done. Those are in pencil. You can start checking those off the list. So as far as fear, I like people to think along those terms of just think about your regrets in the proper context. Don't dwell on all the stupid things you did, because we all have lists a mile long. Dwell on the things that, just think about, dying with a long list of things you wish you would have done. Those are the things that'll kill you. Right.
Okay.
And then, inexperience, that relates more to the money section of things. So I think for inexperience, a lot of people feel anxious around money, and they feel that they really don't have enough experience with it to make the proper decisions. So they don't feel real confident. Hey, even if I was going to put some money aside for a year off, am I putting it in the right place? Am I spending my money on the right things? What am I doing with my debt? Am I still investing, or am I ignoring my retirement? Whatever it is. And then the other thing, I think I phrase it a little differently, but the other thing is just then where you get your information from. So, picking on the media has become an old hat by now, but it's never more true than in the finance space. Every headline's clickbait. Every article's designed to sell you something. Everything's just filler. There's no good advice. Everything online is just stupid. It's just a waste of time. And so people get this skepticism where not only do they not believe anything they read or hear, then they don't believe it when somebody with some experience like myself tells you. And I don't blame them. I do the same in other fields.
So how do you differentiate what information is valid and what information is not valid? I mean, how do I know you're not blowing me some smoke? Yeah. How do I know that the other guy is not giving me, because you can't help but think in the back of your mind that somebody has an agenda.
Yep.
Whether it's media-based, political-based, whatever the case may be, it could be just a commission. So how do we decipher that?
Well, great example. So in most fields, mine included, there's ways that things can be proven. Now, I get that facts are a very fluid thing in this day and age, but there's still things that can be proven. I can prove to you that an insurance policy has a commission that's going to pay somebody, and I can prove to you I don't have an insurance license, so I can't do that.
Right.
So I can prove to you I can't get a commission, and the other guy you're talking to can. Right. So there are certain aspects, but that isn't true with everything, as far as, where should I invest? Well, there's no way to prove anything, right? So you just got to start at the fundamentals and build from there. So again, it's okay. I may not understand, somebody says international stocks are about to go crazy and somebody says they aren't. Well, mainly, who cares? It just doesn't matter. What matters is how much money you're spending and how much money you're putting away and how much overhead you're building into your life. And, did you just buy an $80,000 boat? If you wanted a boat, why didn't a $30,000 boat work? And things like that. Those are the things you can focus on and control that will have a huge impact on your life, instead of watching two people trying to sell you stuff argue over something that doesn't matter.
Okay. That's a good point. Not that I have a problem with the insurance guy making a commission. I have no problem with that, and I'm sure you don't have a problem with that either. It's just,
you want to know about it.
We want to lay across, we want an equal playing field, number one. And what I also want to get across to the listener, because I know people, because I've been there, And right away people think, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. Well, maybe I should just try to do it myself because, I'm going to save money.
Yep.
There's professionals in our corner for a reason.
Yep.
It's just like trying to buy a house or sell your property without a professional agent.
Yes.
What are you going to do if the other guy on the other end is trying to rip you off and you have no counsel? What are you going to do? So when you get into the financial space, of course, it's a sticky situation.
It is.
So in your book, I know you also mentioned something about bucketing versus budgeting. What are the differences?
Yep. So it's a bit of a new take on an old concept. So budgeting is your classic spreadsheet. It's your line by line, how much on gas, how much on groceries, how much on entertainment, how much per month on my car insurance that I actually pay annually, right? And that's where budgets start to break down. Is you have expenses, your heating bill is way more in the winter than it is in the summer, your car insurance is once a year, your life insurance is quarterly. Things don't fit onto a spreadsheet real well. And that's why people who don't run a huge reserve have trouble with budgeting. And that's where most of my clients run into problems. So I use this concept called bucketing, where it's more just about managing a few bank accounts. And it's making sure that you have your kind of major spending coming out of one account, your bills, and then you have your daily spending come out of the other account, and you have a little buffer on the bills for the ones that are uneven, and then you know what's going on. Then you can monitor what's happening. You don't have to dive in and think, oh, what's this $85 charge at Target, and get an argument with your wife that accomplishes nothing. You just know that the balance is there, and either you're running out of money for your life every month or you're not. And if you are, then you don't have to argue about the individual expenses. You just have to know, is there more money to put in there or isn't there? Because if there's not, we got to spend less. So trying to get things down into individual categories, I think, is a bit of a fool's errand. By the way, if it worked for you, great. But as a financial planner, for me to try to teach that to somebody and get them to implement it, it just doesn't work. I tried it 100 times and only a handful ever stuck with it.
So taking your specific budgets, different types of things, and placing them in a bucket.
Yeah, and a bucket being a bank account. So I've talked to people who've gone extreme and they have, 10, 15 bank accounts for everything. And if that works for you, by all means, I think it is great. But that's another thing people aren't going to do. They're not going to go open 10 bank accounts. So my system for the year off system basically has 2 bank accounts, your current one, open a new one. And then it's where you put the money and what you pay out of each one that makes it very logical. So basically you can look at the master bank account and you can see in about 15 transactions where all your money's going. And you don't have to dig any deeper. And I found that not only does that work for my finances, for my wife and I, because my wife is not a CPA. And so I learned the hard way. She's not interested in budgets and spreadsheets like me. So I had to find something that worked in the real world. And It also ended up working for my clients as well. That's great. And all of these things we're talking about can be found in your book, correct? You got it. Okay. Now, the book, does it walk you through as a reader, or is this something that you feel somebody should read and then reach out to you for more information, or what is your thought process on that? Nope, you can do it all through the book. So you don't need to talk to me. You don't need to talk to a financial planner and wonder what I'm selling you at all. We're talking about transparency. I hope it's obvious by now. I don't talk to people across the country because I get a lot of investment business, or any, because that's never happened ever. So that's fine, right? What I want to sell you my book because I want your $4. It's super important to me that I get that. But then hopefully you go to my website and I get your email address because I'm gonna write more books. Then I can get $4 from you a bunch of times. So here's the thing. I'm not going to get rich being on podcasts saying nobody wants to hear from an advisor, right? Advisors are the worst, and I get it, and I agree with it. But that's why I put it into a book, so I could actually help somebody, and they wouldn't have to sit there and be bored by what I'm saying. They could actually go through my book, walk through it step by step, and I lay out the steps that you need to do it. Well, I like that because everybody has to work at their own pace. So having a guide, having a place to go. Number one, I'm not a big book reader. I am not someone that could sit down and read a novel, nonfiction. But when it comes to things that breaks it down step by step, I can absorb things like that myself. And I'm not a book reader. Awesome. I would much rather listen. I'm more of an audio guy. That's just my style.
However,
Mhm.
what I like about the concept you have is that you lay out a system that has worked for you, that you've seen has worked for your clients, and it's in an easy book format. And if it costs you $4 to obtain the information, fantastic. So
Yeah.
I do appreciate that as well.
Well, I want to be clear. It costs you $13, but I keep 4 of it. So I want everybody to know how rich I'm getting off the book.
You gotta love those. You gotta love those publishers, man, and those booksellers. Yeah, yeah. So,
Exactly.
so what else? What else about the book can we talk about? I know you also talk about building habits versus setting goals. Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's another big thing, and that's something I really picked up from working with business owners too. Is I have no problem with goal setting, and I think that's great when it works for people. But saying I'm going to increase my revenue by 100,000, great. But I'm not a fan of the visualize it and make it happen. I'm a fan of doing work. I think that's what makes things happen. So if you want to make an extra $100,000, how many more calls do you have to make a day? 3?
Right.
10? Well, that's your goal. Your goal is the number of calls. Your output kind of is what it is. Your inputs are what matters. And that's the same thing as habits versus goals. So one of the examples I use in the book is, there you can make a goal to climb Mount Everest, or you can make a habit to get up and exercise every day. Only one of them improves your life. Your Mount Everest goal does nothing for you. But if you actually set a habit to work out every day or walk around the block or go on a run or whatever, then you're making progress with your life. So set up these habits to get you closer to where you want to go. Goals is great, but and they'll change by the time you get there anyway. So it kind of doesn't even matter.
Okay, perfect. I love it. So I know this makes sense to everybody as an entrepreneur. You're listening to this. You're like, you know what? I'm going to put this on my things to read. Whether it's a birthday gift, whether it's a Christmas gift, whatever the case may be.
All the above.
What's that?
All the above. Put them on all your list.
Just put it on your list because this is something you're going to check out. I'm definitely going to get a copy of the book. There's going to be a link for the book inside of this podcast. Where's the book available? You want to tell us about that, Steve?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. So just search The Year Off on Amazon and it'll pop up there. Love for you to check it out. Also, I've got a little more information about my system and some resources on my book website, which is yearoff.co, just yearoff.co.
Okay.
And I'm starting to get some feedback and I'm looking to add resources, maybe a lot of course, some supplemental things, whatever. So feel free to check that out. You can also shoot me a message if you got ideas or whatever you need, or the book's doing pretty well, but I'm not so busy. I won't respond to your email either. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.
Right. Absolutely. And again, we'll put the link for where they can obtain the book on Amazon right here on the podcast. And again, if you're watching us on YouTube, leave your comments, get you connected with Steve. So Steve, is there, you also have now the previous title you had, Financial Advice That Doesn't Suck.
Yes.
Is that something you wrote before The Year Off?
Absolutely. That's something I wrote, gosh, I'm going to get this wrong because I don't remember very well, 4 or 5 years ago. Okay. And I wrote that way before I knew what I was doing. So I called The Year Off my first real book. I had a friend of mine get my book, Financial Advice That Doesn't Suck, the other day. And he said, I really like it so far. It's really funny, but I'm waiting for the part where you tell me what to do about it. And I said, oh yeah, that's not in there. I didn't do that. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just on a rant and yelling about my shady industry for 100 pages. I never thought that through. So there's a lot of it I really like, but what was fun is taking that experience into writing The Year Off and knowing, okay, I really need to deliver value here, not just make myself feel better. And so it ended up being a good thing.
Well, it even says in your professional bio that the Financial Advice That Doesn't Suck exposes the hidden agendas of a greedy financial industry. So, which I think is important because, again, you've got to be able to separate the good and the bad in all these industries. And it's so hard in today's world.
It is.
Right.
And as you probably caught on, I don't think super highly of my industry, and I'm not typically shy about that.
Yeah.
But I make one distinction that I don't think other people make very well. I don't call people, men, women, anybody else, good or bad. I don't think you should spend your time thinking, are they honest or are they not honest? Because it's kind of a fool's errand. The business model tells the story. There's business models that are A+, that are B+, that are Ds and Fs, and all the information to figure out what one is publicly available. So I want to try to kind of teach people, look, this may be the nicest guy in the world, but if he's giving you advice with one hand tied behind his back, you're only gonna do so much.
Right.
Or,
right.
Instead of trying to sit there and read somebody's soul to see if they're honest or not, why don't you just look at what's publicly available if you're trying to figure out what to do? So that's a message I'm trying to get across.
I love it. So once again, we're talking to Steve Larsen. He's the author of the book called The Year Off. And one of Steve's goals is to silence the noise in the financial advice industry and provide normal people with practical solutions for their money and career. And so you've got the book, The Year Off. You can find it on Amazon. We'll put the link here. And also we will make sure that we've got your website here. Is there anything else you want to just mention to our listeners before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think real quick, the only thing we didn't hit is the point of the book is to tell you how far away you are from being able to take your year off. And that's part of the step-by-step in there. So I'll teach you how to organize your finances, put them in major categories, all without budgeting. And then you'll be able to say, hey, I'm 12 months away from my year off. I'm 18 months. I'm 7 years away from being able to take a year off. And then I show you how to cut that down. So I've had clients who we start off, man, I'm 7 or 8 years away from having 12 months worth of income. And then I say, yeah, but if you do these 3 things, you're down to 18 months. And they say, oh, okay. So there's how long you are from a year off. And then there's how to get there faster. So along the way, you're able to count, hey, right now I have 3 months of freedom. Now I have 5 months of freedom. Now I have 9 months of freedom. And so that's kind of the point of the book. So you can start thinking in those terms.
So you're not necessarily talking about taking time off and your business is still automated and running on its own. You're talking about if you 100% had to shut down.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a big difference, obviously.
Yeah. And people with automated businesses are going to have an advantage, right? Because it's just going to take less income. So whether you have a rental that's paying you, or you have a business that can run without you, or even if you need, you still need to run your business in 5 hours a week, great. It's all adaptable. But basically it's written from the ground floor. Wait, what if you needed to grab your go bag and disappear for 12 months, right? This is what it takes.
Yeah. I mean, look what happened with Dexter. He just disappears out on a boat, and supposedly now he's coming back for another season.
That's right. Exactly.
Who can do that?
He must have been good with his money, I guess.
Either that, or he had an insight on your book before it even published, right?
He might have. He might have. I should have called it. Yeah, I should have called my book "The Slice of Life." That's a good idea.
I love it. So obviously, you watched Dexter. Is a very, very, very intriguing show. So
it was good.
Well, Steve, we appreciate you being a part of Certifiably Unemployable, and we appreciate the fact that you're sharing so much knowledge and you've bundled it up into a book. I think that takes a lot of focused energy. I love stuff like that. I think that's great because resources are super important. Well, we're also going to put that on our website. We are in the process of building our website right now. So depending on when you're listening to this, certifiablyunemployable.com may or may not be available. So check it out because we're going to pack load that with resources. One last thing, we want to bring you back in the future for maybe some financial tips and some advices and different things, because I feel that that's super important for the self-employed person to not only position themselves personally, but make sure that their business is on track. Would you be up for that?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to be back on here and share what I know. And I'll share the few good things I've learned, but mostly all the mistakes I made, so you guys can try to avoid them.
What I'd like to also do is maybe we could test some things out in the background, see what's working, and see, and give people some actual results and some things that are really working, real time, so on and so forth. So that's something we can talk about.
You betcha. That'd be awesome.
All right. Fantastic. All right, Steve, once again, thank you for joining us. So don't forget to make your comments, share this information, like, subscribe. You don't want to miss an episode. Until next time.
You've been listening to Certifiably Unemployable. Ready to fire the boss yet? You're on your way. Sean has been self-employed for over 20 years. So if that's something that you want to do, something you've been dreaming about for years, Sean has all the knowledge, good, bad, and indifferent. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook and Instagram at Certifiably Unemployable. Find us on YouTube and at www.certifiablyunemployable.com. certifiablyunemployable.us.net.org and .info. Till next time, this is Certifiably Unemployable, signing off.